So welcome to this video. This is actually spliced from another video and it's going through how Dolphin Flashcards has a layered architecture and how the Dolphin Flashcards architecture works. And so then looking at how the front end and the back end works. So the front end is coded in React and the back end is coded in Python, and they're separate and independent programs, and they communicate over something called an API, so an application programming interface. So this means that you can run the front end program on its own without running the back end, and you can run the back end without running the front end. But of course, to properly use them, they need to work together and they need to run together. Otherwise, they won't really work properly. But you can run them independently, so they're kind of separated and they're independent. And so this is what then links into this layered architecture, where you've got the front end code, then that talks to the back end code, that then talks to the actual database. And so then to look at this in more practice, we will look at what happens when this dashboard page is loaded. So what happens when we sign in and we get this page. Because the first thing that happens is our computer makes a request to the front end server, and it says to the front end, hey, I'd like to get this kind of the dashboard page. And so the server gives your computer the dashboard page, and then your computer displays it. But when it first gets it, it looks similar to this, except it's got no data. So for example here, you can see it's got 0-day streak. First of all, when it's actually fetched from the server, it doesn't have that number, so it just says day streak. It's got none of the data. So for example, where you can see total XP 290, it doesn't have that. Where you can see the goals at the bottom, it doesn't have that goal. It's just got the broad format of the page, but no data at all. So the next step that needs to happen is the front end then makes a request to the back end server, and it says, can I have all the data? So for example, it says, can I have the number of days streak that the user has? And then the back end will fetch that from the database and to return it, and then the front end will display that, and then it says, okay, I'd like the total and the weekly XP then. And then it sends another request to the back end gets that data from the database and it sends it back to the front end. And then the front end says, okay, please can I have, the goals now, all the goals that the user has, which you can see here. And so then the back end receives the request, it gets the data from the database, and it fetches it back, and the front end displays that. And so that's how the API works, where the front end kind of displays, what the website looks like, but to get the actual data, it needs to talk to the back end. And